island that time nearly forgot. Through the centuries, New Guinea lay dormant, a Stone Age survival, unheeded and unheeding on the outskirts of Asia. High in the mountains lived tribes whose world ended at the next line of ridges. Every man's hand was against his neighbor. Sorcery and the law of the stone axe ruled everything. Today, the ancient story of the island lives on in dances and songs of a people who are fast losing their legends. Since the Papuan Southern Highlands District was formed, the Capuchin Mission and the administration have had much success in promoting peace and security to a wild and primitive region which has known only fighting from time immemorial. The first American Capuchin superior in Papua was Father Atma Gallagher, who had been a missionary in Puerto Rico for 7 years. He and his 5 companions arrived in 1955 to establish the Capuchin Mission in the Southern Highlands. Owing to the rugged and virtually roadless Papuan interior, air transport is certainly no luxury, but a necessity of survival for the mission. Thanks to the generosity of American benefactors, the Capuchin Mission now has a much-needed light aircraft. Brother Jerry Perot is not only their chief pilot, but also an aeronautical engineer. Having an expert to keep up the good maintenance of the plane is an important factor in a country where the after-sales service of companies leaves much to be desired. The arrival of the gleaming Cessna 206 of the Capuchin Mission is always a great event for the people, wherever it may land. This type of aircraft carries 5 passengers or a payload of about 1,050 pounds. Having to transport all kinds of goods by air is still very expensive, even when you own a plane, but it's very necessary. More helpful too, for example, in the instance of a medical emergency, our plane can speedily pick up patients for urgent surgery. Some mission stations like Det and Poreni even have their own airstrips, designed by Father Berard Tomasetti and built by the people. We are rather proud of the fact that our aircraft, flown by Brother Jerry and Nairon, a lay missionary, has a good reputation for its high efficiency and reliability. New Guinea is one of the toughest countries to fly in. To be sure, it looks very picturesque from the air, but for even the most experienced pilot, it can be quite a nightmare. Today, Bishop Furman and one of his youngest fathers, Father Malachy from the newest mission outstation of Windsor, are on an aerial survey of the Diocese of Mendi. Kasuyo, near Arave, in the Arave River Valley, is at present the southernmost mission station in the Diocese of Mendi. The mission station at Kagwa was established in 1958. The Alabu mission developed rapidly since its foundation in 1955. Even the mission at Nipa makes headway after opening only in 1964. Tari mission in the Huli country was founded in 1955, and hopeful beginnings have been made with the establishment of the mission outstation at Det in 1966. The great success of the Capuchin mission in the Papuan Southern Highlands is quite evident. Still, there remains so much more to be done. Even though the mission has a plane now, exploratory mission work in these rugged and remote parts of the country has to be carried out entirely on foot. This may give you some idea of what the missionary is up against. Lake Kootaboo was discovered in 1936 by 2 of the great Australian adventurers, Ivan Champion and Jack Hydes. 2 Catholic missionaries, Father Mikolo and Brother Delabar, from here penetrated deep into the Southern Highlands in 1954. And today, the area is still partly unexplored and a great challenge for future Capuchin missionaries. In the harsh environment and resultant isolation of New Guinea, remote villages are still terrorized by fanatical sorcerers who are quite often an obstacle to knowledge. Witchcraft, blackmail, traditional abortion, and a fearful destitution combined with many superstitions still prevail. The mission and government are working together to help the Papuan people to realize that all these bad practices have to be stamped out for their own good. But to bring help to all those in need means men, money, equipment, and a lot of patience. Culturally, the Southern Highlands are very primitive. Before the arrival of the white man in 1950, they had no tools or weapons of steel. The proper sharpening of a bamboo knife, however, is very effective just the same. It is exactly this kind of sharp bamboo knife which quite easily severs the head of an enemy. A door to progress is opened wherever Capuchin missionaries are. Father Berard Tomasetti was a civil engineer before his ordination and served with the United States Navy Seabees in New Guinea during the Second World War. He returned to the territory as a missionary in 1955. Using the natural resources of the country, Father Berard designed quite a number of hydroelectric power plants, serving not only the Capuchins but other missions elsewhere in New Guinea. One of these days, there will also be a hydro power plant at the Det mission station. But as you can see, they still have a long way to go. Nevertheless, work is progressing. It is quite a switch from the creation of hydroelectric schemes to the design for the Tari High School buildings. Father Berard, Brother Claude and Brother Mark are very good architects too. The Capuchin Mission's latest venture, started in the early 1970s, was the establishment of their first high school at Tari. Father Paul Farkas, Director of Education, Mr. Owen Mickey and Father Myron Flax have a lot of planning to do with the establishment of the high school. Undertakings like this are rather expensive. However, the Southern Highlands people, eager for a better education for their children, contributed money or labor towards the erection of the buildings. At the opening in 1971, more than half the number of students walked up to 60 miles in order to enroll. There is certainly no lack of enthusiasm in Papua today for improved education. Not all mission stations are lucky enough to obtain suitable land for their purposes. Here in Nipa, they have first to shift a whole mountaintop in order to make space for more buildings. Hard work is made easier with the knowledge that a good meal is going to be ready at the end of it. Brother Felix Shinsky's prowess as a good cook is well known and appreciated by all. A sister also chips in to make the meal a real feast. Brother Alfred Vincent surely is one of the hardest working builders on our mission. Wherever a helpful hand is needed, there you'll find Brother Alfred. Father Senan Glass, like all Capuchins here, developed a special interest in the territory and soon discovered its fascination and challenge. Father Matthew Gross in Pereni knows that the first essential to being a successful missionary is a readiness and an ability to adapt to new conditions. One of the best ways to make friends is to learn the language.
All right.
New Guinea's ancient history is well worth studying. Father Timon Capel and his old Huli friend tried to find possible explanations of how these prehistoric stones may have come to the Huli country. Were they stones left behind by an earlier race of people? We know certainly that the stone images could not have been shaped by the Huli people, for they never had any steel implements for this kind of masonry. The study of the history of the birds of paradise is intriguing as we follow the discovery and exploration of New Guinea. The first record of a bird of paradise in Western Europe is bound up with the first voyage round the world initiated by Magellan. Father Albert Alexandrounas in Pangaea proudly explains to his visiting father the decorative use his people make of these skillfully dried birds. It's fortunate that now all birds of paradise are protected. In the isolation of the Papuan bush, the hobby of amateur shortwave radio transmission and reception comes in quite handy. Father Benjamin Madden in Det is in contact with radio enthusiasts all over the world. Several times he contacted his parents in Maryland.
CQ calling CQ 20-meter phone. This is VK9BM, Victor King 9, Boston, Mexico, in Papua New Guinea, calling CQ 20-meter. And VK9BM is by for any call. Okay, someone, please.
September 27th, 50,469 people jammed Three River Stadium to a new attendance record to watch their Pirates heroes in the final home game of the season.
Maybe you're surprised to learn that the Steelers and the Pittsburgh Pirates have some ardent fans in New Guinea. It's really no wonder. Father Coleman Studeny follows all the ball scores on the American Forces Network. And to the utter astonishment of Bishop Furman, a sports fan himself, Father Coleman has been known to listen in direct to broadcasts of the game even at 4 o'clock in the morning, New Guinea time. How's that for loyalty?
No balls, 2 strikes. Pirates lead 2-0, 1 out. Come on, Lucius. Pour him a pellet. Let's get it over with, old buddy. Backs him out swinging. Number 9 for Luke. That'll be caught in now, 0 for 3. Here's the pitch. And it's bounced to third. Heaven has it. We had them all away.
Road building projects in the Papuan Highlands are of great importance, and everyone takes part in it. The people, who know the tremendous disadvantages of isolation, are making every effort to connect their settlements to serviceable road systems which are just under construction. Scenes like this are frequently misinterpreted by overseas photographers and writers. Racing through Papua New Guinea without real knowledge of the local conditions at all, they are providing a diversity of superficial pictures and views out of focus altogether. The truth about these people working so hard with primitive tools, or none at all, is that they are determined to catch up with our 20th century. As an example, in an emergency, the doctor can now reach villages faster. Results are that many lives have been saved already, whereas in former times the persons concerned would have died for sure. Oh yes, the Papuan people can see the advantages of having roads, and that is why, despite any hardship, the road work is going on. Meanwhile, you may have noticed that our roads here are a very far cry from your superhighways at home. Having to travel on Papuan roads is an unending and exciting adventure. One never knows where he may end up. At times, the bishop himself has to fill the road holes with stones. A person could disappear altogether in some of these holes. On another occasion, Father Dominic and the bishop have to build their own bridge in order to reach the other side of the road. Uh-oh, the other side of the road's not much help either. Now the whole darn car is stuck. Good grief, what a day. It's always advisable to take one's own excavation equipment along. We do not intend to make publicity for any make of car. After all, we don't get paid for that. Nevertheless, we're constantly amazed at the beating our trucks and their tires take without letting us down. Sometimes it's quite unbelievable. And at long last, the bishop arrives. The people are happy too. From their mountaintops, they've anxiously watched the progress of the vehicle. The sincere love of Bishop Thurman for the Papuan people is always manifested in his constant attitude of Christian courtesy and thoughtfulness for the feeling of others. Because of this, it's no small wonder that wherever the bishop appears, masses of people turn up to greet him. Madang is one of the prettiest tropical towns in New Guinea and the gateway to the thriving highlands. At present, the Capuchin Mission Plain is based there. Backed by the wide Ramu River and the towering Finisterre Ranges of the hinterland, Madang is the perfect place for an exciting holiday. Right on the lagoon, 17 miles north of Madang, is the minor seminary at Kap. And here, students from various dioceses of the territory are being prepared for the priesthood. The seminary is under the direction of the Capuchin Fathers from the American province of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. They took charge in 1967. Studying for the priesthood is not at all dreary, as some may think. There are many fascinating subjects to be learned, capturing the imagination of the students. Nevertheless, vocations still means renunciation and sacrifice. It also means understanding the stupendous mission of the Catholic Church, now more than ever engaged in teaching man his true nature. Vocation means to be young, to have a clear eye and a big heart, accepting the imitation of Christ as a program for his whole life. We believe that no other prospect in life offers an ideal more true, more generous, more human, and more holy than the humble and faithful vocation. In this peaceful, tropical setting, it's hard to imagine today that less than 30 years ago, some of the bloodiest battles in the Pacific War were fought here. Rusty guns serve as a grim reminder in today's history lessons for the students at St. Fidelis College. A silent and slowly deteriorating old gun can mean very little to young people in New Guinea today. They are very fortunate not to know the horrors of war. For them it is only history. But for the older generation, the ugly face of war is living memory. By 1971, there had already been 25 seminarians from the Diocese of Mendi at St. Fidelis College, and it surely proves that the missionary effort by the Capuchins is fruitful indeed. And it's very encouraging to know how wholeheartedly the Catholic faith is accepted by our Papuan people of the Southern Highlands. Without being bound to any political system or particular culture, the Roman Catholic Church is universal. Pope Paul VI, on his recent visit to the South Pacific, told the bishops of Papua New Guinea, "You may be far away by distance, but you are close to our heart." The news that the first Papuan priest, Father Louis Bangeki, was going to be consecrated the first Papuan Catholic bishop by the Pope in Sydney was an historic event for the people of Papua New Guinea, and an inspiration, especially for the seminarians at Madang. For the Diocese of Mendi, it was an historic event also, when on the 7th of February 1971, the first two Southern Highland seminarians, Senan and Furman, were invested as candidates in the Capuchin order. And both will continue to study for the priesthood at the major seminary in Bamana, Port Moresby. '71 was a fruitful year indeed for the Capuchin mission in Papua. The following week, on the 14th of February, Aloysius Nali was invested as a candidate lay brother of the Capuchins at Yalibu. Father Gary Stakem, Capuchin superior, made the investitures. Brother Aloysius's parents gave their son to the church, and it's only fitting that on this memorable day they bring the offertory to the altar too. In our times, when anti-colonial feelings run high, we think it should be made clear once and for all that mission activity is definitely not a form of colonialism, but the active guidance of a new Christian community to the gradual assumption of its independent nature as a local church, a microcosm of the Church Universal. Let us never forget that before there can be further development, there must be exploration. We are prone these days to conveniently overlook the debt we owe to the pathfinders as we complacently count the achievements of today. But it all began long ago. Stripped of slogans and self-interest, New Guinea emerges today not as a problem to be solved or assessed, but simply as an island, wild and beautiful, worthy to be loved for its own sake. With a people, sometimes backward, but always kind, and so much in need of help.